Oh my god! Yo, there was Kerbals inside!
No!
Hello, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program Hardcore Mode. Part 8, the only exploration company that cares less about its employees than OceanGate. Last time, we landed a base on the surface of Duna, explored 2 of the outer gas giants in the Kerbal system, exploded on the space egg, and began working on harvesting Mini-Moose for its resources. This time, our engineers will grapple with the idea of a space plane. Oh, we took off the ground though. We took off the ground. This was more successful than the first try. Construct a space gas station in high Mini-Moose orbit. Begin construction of an inhabited Mun Colony. And advance the collective understanding of the Kerbal species. But at what cost? For the first time in KSP Hardcore, I will be introducing a kill counter in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. It hasn't been necessary until now, but you'll see why here in a little bit. But anyway, let's begin. Today's topic, infrastructure, but in space. Just for an example, let's say you wanted to drive in your car from Toadsuck, Arkansas, clear across the country to Booger Hole, West Virginia. This is a really long way, but you can make it there fairly easy by stopping at gas stations along the way, from here and here and here. That's fairly reasonable. But now imagine that there are no gas stations between these 2 locations, but you still wanted to go. Well, what would you do? Well, you'd have to take all the gas you needed for the entire trip with you from the very beginning, weighing down your car and making the trip much harder to prepare for. It's really the same concept in space too, because say if we wanted to make it out to Plock, we could leave the Kerbin, stop off at Mini-Moose, refuel, and then travel on out to the farthest reaches of the solar system much easier, so let's get to building. When we left off last time, we had placed down 2 installations on Mini-Moose, the first of which was the Harvester Mark II. Its job is to slurp up all of the ore from the ground, refine it into usable fuel, and then store it for later use. The second installation was a ship known as the Jerry Can, a little ship designed to land on the surface to refuel from the harvester, and then ferry that gas back up into orbit and rendezvous to refuel the third major part of this whole operation. And what I'm building on screen. It's essentially a bunch of liquid fuel tanks in orbit that will serve as a permanent place to refuel our ships, or a Space 7-Eleven. It was a heavy load, but we launched it nonetheless, got into a stable orbit, and burned off quite a bit of our fuel just getting into orbit around Mini-Moose. But after a stable orbit was achieved, our top engineers had to do a test run to see if this thing even works and display the whole process in action. First off, the harvester mines the ore and converts it into liquid fuel. The jerry can collects the fuel, launches off into orbit, rendezvous with the space tanker, refuels, goes back into land, lands perfectly but a little far away from the target. That went well. We didn't even fall over. I know. Shocking. But the issue now is we're kind of far away, you know? Oh, okay, we're too far away to transfer fuel. So it gets closer, and then I wasn't relative to surface velocity. Spin! No! No! Oh. We're chilling. Do I have any monopropellant engine? The Jerrycan Mark II was launched, landed within range of the target with no explosions. With this, the Space 7-Eleven was nearing completion. But as you are well aware, no 7-Eleven is complete without an attendant that doesn't speak your language. And that's where Cillian Kennedy comes in. He has plenty of experience in running gas stations back on Kerbin, but almost no experience in the vacuum of space. So he was a perfect fit. The 7-Eleven was fitted with enough food and life support to keep a Kerbal alive for decades at a time. He was suited up, launched off the pad, and then a booster when it was separating actually impaled the rocket but somehow didn't explode. This is gonna hit here and explode? Possibly. Oh, no. Doing good, this is literally falling inside of the craft. We're good. Oh, we're taking it with us actually. We're actually taking it with us. Okay, we're good, actually. We're chilling. This was definitely a first for me in KSP, because normally a faint gust of wind would blow up my rocket, but somehow this was fine. Sufficiently terrified, Cillian prepares himself for a 5-day journey out to the Mission To The Mun. Upon arrival in orbit, a perfect opportunity presented itself. Instead of being low on fuel like we normally would, we rendezvoused with the space tanker and refueled, and then came in for a landing nearby the harvester, and very carefully repositioned and burned the ship to get a landing that I liked. I'm trying to get within 250 meters. This is pretty close though. If you're wondering why I landed my miner in this area instead of on the flats, it's because this area, whenever I scouted it out, had ore, and the flats did not have ore, which is rather unfortunate because it's very easy to land on the flats. That's it right there. And Cillian got out of the ship and laid down a flag commemorating the opening of the very first Space 7-Eleven. Hot dog rollers are at the ready. Lotto machines only pay out a maximum of $10. Beautiful. But while Cillian works in the moon getting all the gambling machines up and running, our engineers begin working on a new mode of transportation, henceforth unknown to Kerbal kind, the plane.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Truth be told, our scientists spend a lot of time going up, but not a lot of time going up and to the right. And the calculations for this are all different. Apparently you need to have a sensor of lift, sensor of lift is a thing. Anyways, point is there's a lot of rules for building a plane, and even more rules for building a plane that can go into space. Our engineers' first couple of iterations were rather unpolished, prone to doing donuts. Why does it spin so much? Explosions. Oh, okay. We have lost our engines and killing Kerbals. Oh my god! Yo, there was Kerbals inside! No! Oh no! Rest in peace, Dragonfish and Sergey.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because...
The next innovation was also not very impressive. Spent a surprising amount of time upside down. Yo, that wasn't even that bad. But the one after that, now that was really something. It got off the ground, went kinda high, and then came back down fast. But nobody was inside of it, so a win is a win. After this brief glimpse of success, the Void space program was then completely sidetracked, developing a plane that had approximately 0% chance of getting to orbit, but 100% chance of having lower back pain. The Aunt Fanny is cleared for takeoff. Okay, we appear to be going into something. Okay, this is fine. Yep, okay, that was good, that was good. After spending millions trying to get the Aunt Fanny Mark III to work, I finally had to face reality and realize that this design was a dead end. And also some Kerbals died again. It happens. Oh. Okay, we're still in this. We're still in this. Oh no. Oh no, did I do it again? I killed two.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get...
After this, it was time to actually lock in and figure out how to make a freaking space plane. The final iteration of a space plane was this craft right here. I called it the X-Wing, and it actually made it into orbit eventually. I believe the problem here was less about the design and more of a skill issue. I'll admit it, a couple of iterations later we built a space plane that was actually able to fly out to the Mun and return. Mostly to test how re-entry would work on a plane that didn't have a heat shield, and I found out that the secret was just to kind of angle the craft and rock it back and forth to dissipate the heat during entry. I was then feeling rather brave, so I decided to try and do a real landing. No parachutes or nothing. What the hell? SAS disengaged? What just happened? Oh, I lost probe control. Yo, I landed without probe control. No, I don't have brakes. How is this working? That was an action-packed adventure. This was also another confidence builder, leading up to the final iteration of the X-Wing. In the end, I decided to send it up more like a space shuttle, strapped to a big-ass rocket, just to get a little bit extra bit of Delta V, needed to perform the next part of this mission. Remember earlier when I said I was talking about these 2 Kerbals that we left in space last time? Well, last episode, if you remember, they were actually on a collision course with Many-Moons. But instead of letting them explode and die like normal, our engineers had the idea of having them go EVA and using their jetpacks to burn into an orbit. And this worked surprisingly well. But now they're stuck in orbit around Many-Moose in a sort of suspended animation. This was the real purpose of the X-Wing craft, to save these 2 souls in orbit and bring them back home safely. After burning out to the Menti-Moon, the X-Wing stopped off to grab some fuel before swooping in to rendezvous with the first of the 2 Kerbals. Thankfully, Mario, despite being trapped in the vacuum of space for several months, had survived, activating his innate photosynthesis abilities. He was then quickly picked up with minimal issues. Tin Can Kerman, however, was not so lucky. He had gone insane from being stuck in space and had thrown away his jetpack, meaning that we had to maneuver very delicately to grab him. The ship had to position itself exactly to where the ladder would be reachable for Tin Can. This sucked so hard to do. So therefore, I present to you this time lapse of trying to get Tin Can to grab the hatch and climb aboard the ship. Oh my god. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
After 6 minutes of this nonsense, both Kerbals were collected and then were made to make a return trip back to Kerbin. After re-entry, I once again took another chance of landing manually. Deploy landing gear. Mario, I hope you know what you're doing, dude. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no! Oh no! Oh, brakes, brakes, brakes. Dang, man. Nothing cooler than landing in a space plane. It paid off. And then it was time to put away the space plane idea for a while. It was fun for sure, but I think I'm much better at rocketry.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
And with that experiment out of the way, it's time to get back to doing what we do best. Blowing up rockets and killing Kerbals. So let us begin construction of the Mun Colony. The first step in any successful colony begins with a survey. If we want to have a base on the Mun, we need to have access to ore that we can refine into fuel on the surface. With this in mind, a quick satellite was dispatched to the Mun, collecting data of the moon and mapping out and finding a great place to land. After it successfully mapped out the surface and found a landing site, the Harvester Mark II was then reconfigured to function with slightly higher gravity, then launched. Upon arrival, it was realized that regardless of our best efforts, the ship was not able to land on the surface. It exploded, but a little piece was left over, so let's just pretend that's what I meant to do, and then move on. The next set of landings in the Mun are intended by our scientists to be the foundations for a Mun Colony, consisting of several different parts, but I'll explain their functions later on. For now, let's take a guess on how many Kerbals will be expended during the construction of a Mun Colony. What's your guess? Will it be 0, 2, 4, or 6 plus Kerbals? Make your guess down in the comments, and while you're down there, please drop a sub also. It helps me out a ton. Anyways, we have a lot of construction to do, so let's get cracking. Admit some fault here. Not for myself, of course, but for the engineers back at the KSC. The map very clearly shows that we'll be encountering the Mun during our orbit, so we time warp until the encounter, and it just never happens. Well, that's strange. So one of our engineers hits the time warp button again to try and get an encounter on the next time around in our orbit without checking the periapse. meaning our ship with 6 whole Kerbals begins re-entry without any heat shields. This is about to be rough. Yep, they all died. Back at the KSC, we hold another funeral service to memorialize the fallen. That's 10 extra flags added for this episode. More than have fallen in the entire series leading up to this episode. An engineer quietly suggests that we should change up how we're conducting operations in order to add more safety features. He was promptly chastised, and then the exact same craft was placed in the launch pad, this time with some new astronauts, including Asmongold and Hassan Kerman. I sure hope they'll get along during their trip. After launching off the pad, the gray crew delivery vehicle lands in the Mun without incident, and some Kerbals get out to set up the colony and get things ready for their extended stay. And I'll explain what these modules do. The first module here is the ore mining and refueling station, allowing us to create fuel for future colony visits. It also has a command pod, where a singular Kerbal can operate it. The second installation is the main crew habitation, researching, and storage module. It has all the necessities our Kerbals need to survive indefinitely on the surface of a foreign body. And the tall back here with plants in it, this is our food production module. It produces enough food to keep all 6 of our permanent residents fully fed during their tour of duty. And lastly, this one with a rocket underneath is a crew ferry, just in case something happens and we need to leave in a hurry. All the crew can escape back home without incident. And I'm probably a little biased, but I think it looks pretty good all set up here on the surface. But let me know what you think, and what I should do in the next video down in the comments. And thanks for watching. That's all for me. Goodbye.